Okay, welcome back. I just mentioned about the midterm and being able to submit questions for the midterm. After the midterm, we'll be going over sequence diagrams, and then you see another assignment related to sequence diagrams. We'll do exercises on sequence diagrams and have some papers to watch and a video, or papers to read, a video to watch. Another quiz. Then we're going to be looking at something called UML other diagrams. And so we'll do that. The last date to withdraw is November 13th. Then we'll do on November 16th other diagram exercises. So please bring a laptop to class. Then on the 30th, we'll talk about code smells refactoring and doing refactoring in Eclipse. On December 7th, we'll be doing refactoring exercises in the class. I didn't state it here, but we'll have some review for the final exam. And the final exam is comprehensive. Then, let's see, assignment 5 is due the December 10th. I believe that's a Sunday. Needs to be emailed to my email address there. Now we have other policies. I'll go over those now. One of which is that at different institutions, they might accept or they might allow students to share projects, homeworks, and whatever. Here, you're not to share homework assignments, projects, quizzes, and exams, and unless I state in the assignment that you can work in groups of two, assume two students in the same section here. Other than that, if it says work individually, please pay very careful attention to that. Assignments are due exactly at the prescribed time, which is the beginning of class, and I'm I pay very careful attention to deadlines. One of the things that happens if you work for a company and they have to get a proposal to Washington, D.C., let's say to the National Institute of Health, and it has to be there tomorrow at 10 o'clock, well, if you don't get it FedExed out tonight and it doesn't get there, it doesn't matter. Don't even bother, because deadlines are taken extremely serious in industry. And if you say you're going to roll out a software product and it's delayed, it makes the company look really bad. So I do pay very careful attention to deadlines. Now be aware that the printer knows that you have a deadline and it's going to jam up at the worst possible time or run out of toner. So give yourself at least a half hour to, if it's due at 4, get it done by 3:30. In the event that you are late, there'll be a 10% penalty per every 24-hour period. So pay very careful attention to deadlines. There'll be no extra credit homework or projects in this class, and all homework assignments must be typed, not handwritten. And the idea is if you're going to get a job that pays $80,000 or higher, they're going to expect, if you're going to pay that money, a certain amount of professionalism. So that way I want to get you conditioned so you do present things in a professional way. Now this paragraph has a lot of boldface. Basically, I take cheating very seriously. You're not to discuss, use, email, show, give, buy, borrow, trade, steal, download from the internet, in whole or part, any of the homework or projects in any manner not prescribed by the instructor. This also applies even after you've completed the course. So if you complete the course and somebody next semester asks you for maybe assignment 2 and you give it to him, and I realize that you're the one that turned it in, well, I'm going to file an academic honesty violation against you. And the reason I take cheating so serious is because what happens is if a student, like worst case, cheats in every class and is able to graduate like with a 4.0, he or she goes to a job, goes to an interview, let's say with IBM, and then during the interview does not show that he or she knows anything. Well, the IBM folks are going to think, well, gee, those students from UHCL, they get high grades, but they don't know anything. So it'll really damage the reputation of the software engineering program and the UHCL university as a whole. So that's why I take cheating very seriously. And worst case, it could result in an F in the class. You might get a 0 on the assignment, or I might give a 0 on assignment. I might not give you any the benefit of any curve on the midterm or final, plus any curve on the course. So please be very careful. And another thing that can happen if you have a group assignment and your partner cheats, gets part of the work from somebody else, and you don't know it, well, you could become guilty because of something he or she has done. So my point is, choose your partner very carefully on group assignments. Okay. Okay, a couple more paragraphs about cheating there. You can read that. Standard academic cheating procedure will be followed. Here's a link to that. You can take a look at that. And here's a link for plagiarism. What is plagiarism? So please take a look at that. Now, let me talk about tests and quizzes. There'll be no makeup exams unless verified emergency and with immediate notification. Now, in the event, let's say you have a car accident and you go to the hospital, well, you don't need to notify me immediately, okay? But at some point, I need to be notified. Also, for the face-to-face class, rescheduling a final exam to catch a plane fight in order to go back home is not a significant reason for changing the exam. Sometimes students want to get a plane flight and take the exam early, and that's not anything I'll allow. The idea is that your education can have a major impact down the road, literally over your lifetime, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars because you have a master's versus not having a master's. So saving a couple $100 for, to avoid taking the test is not a valid reason for me. Also, in the event I have to give a midterm exam, that makes a lot more work for me, and I can guarantee the exam will be harder and different from the original exam. So any makeup exam will be harder and different from the original exam. There'll be no makeup quizzes, and as I pointed out, quizzes have a hard deadline. Please allow for additional time in case Blackboard crashes. You're responsible for all the readings throughout the semester. You're expected to work on quizzes and tests individually. You may not discuss, show, give, sell, borrow, trade, share, tests, or quizzes. Now here's what happens. I designed the quizzes to help you do better on the exams. Now, sometimes what happens, students, they get copies of quizzes from, previous students, and then at the end of the semester, the student averages like 95 to 100 on the quizzes, and they think, wow, I did great. But then their average on the exam is like a 75 to 80. And the quizzes are designed to help you do better on the midterm and the final. And as I said before, the midterm and the final is worth 80% of your grade. The quizzes are only worth 5% of your grade. So you might want to think about, as you do the quizzes, to not cheat, because that'll give you an idea of what you know and what you don't know. So it's going to hurt you if you try to shortcut those quizzes. Okay, also, if you witness a student cheating on, let's say, an assignment, you're expected to report that to me. Okay, miscellaneous here. Any student with a disability, sometimes I have students who they need, for exams, like size 20 font, or they need blue paper on assignments, whatever. So if you have any disability, please contact me as soon as possible, and also call the disability services at the number there. Okay. Also, you need to bring a copy of the notes to class. I do not want you to bring notes on a laptop, because here's what happens. I've gone, down the hall in the Delta building, past other faculty members' classes, and I see students sitting there, and they got the laptops open, they're surfing the web or chatting with their friends. They're really not focused on the class. And I think to help you get better focused, I want you to bring a hard copy of the notes to class. Okay, the ringing, beeping, buzzing of cell phones during class is extremely rude and disruptive and disrupts the flow of the class. So what I do is that, and also texting in the class is extremely rude. And it's obvious to me when I see a student looking down and they're kind of smiling and looking between their legs, and yeah, I know they're texting. So make sure you turn off your cell phone and don't text during class. And I take it very serious. And what I will do each time I see a person texting or their cell phone goes off, I will deduct 3 points off your final grade. So that'll take you from like a A- to a B+, for example. I've had a student lose up 9 points he or she never learned, and that was very, very costly. In terms of attendance, you're allowed to miss one class, no questions asked, but each additional class that you miss will result in a -2 points per absence. So if you're sick one time, that's your missing class. Just don't get sick more than once. Okay, in terms of providing references, if you get an A in one of my classes or you average an A- in 2 or more of my classes, I'll be glad to provide a reference. Okay. If I am your advisor, I recommend you complete your candidate plan of study as soon as possible. For new students, that's usually into 6 weeks before they're available the first semester. And also pay very careful attention to email correspondence. This represents a compilation of an email from various students. I cut and paste, made one example to illustrate it. So the student wrote, "Dear Betticher," misspelled my name and didn't capitalize. "Is there any chance of regrading my final exam?" No question mark. "As I am," lowercase I there, "I am very nervous in exam. I couldn't be able to attempt properly, period." Lowercase y should be capitalized. You know how attentive in class, and can you, lowercase u, please grade me considering my class participation also? Or do I have a chance of re-exam because C grade draws my GPA, that should be capitalized, low, which results in losing my scholarship. So they spell losing wrong, too many O's, and they spell scholarship wrong. Please consider my request. Thanks and regards, student. So when I get an email like this, I just shake my head. Things you want to be very careful when you send an email, not only to me, but in anybody professional context, because a lot of times when you send an email, it might be the first time you're contacting somebody, and you only get one chance to make a first impression. So make that a good impression. And I've had students write for TA positions, and they have all these mistakes, and I think, well, if you're that careless, I don't want to hire you for a TA. So please be very careful. Things like because, BCOZ instead of because, R instead of ARE, U instead of YOU, a lowercase I instead of an uppercase I, starting a sentence with a lowercase letter. Now here's another one. I notice international students culturally, they use the word doubt instead of the word question. They might say, "I have a doubt." And that's really not a very positive word. For example, if you have a question about the class, like, how often we're going to meet, that's one thing. If you say, "I have a doubt about the class," that has a negative implication. So if I said something like, "I doubt you're going to pass this class," that's a negative context. And so try to use the word question instead of the word doubt. Finally, if I receive any anonymous emails, I throw them out. I have students say things like, "The student with the polka dot shirt in the second row cheated on assignment 3," or something like that. I cannot follow through with any anonymous email. So please, if you do have a concern, either stop by my office or include your name. Well, that's the syllabus, and we'll stop here. Let's take a look at what's called the online orientation document.